The stars were quiet. Nothing moved in Sector 9 Delta for over 100 years. No ships, no colonies, no life. Just cold rocks and broken satellites. But on this day, something changed. Aboard the Zera, a small alien scout ship, 3 crew members were finishing their routine sweep. Captain Rello, tall and sharp-eyed, leaned forward when the signal flashed across the console. "Did you see that?" he asked, his voice tight. "Yes, Captain," replied Varric, the ship's tech officer. "But it can't be real. There's nothing out here." The screen blinked again. A pulse, weak but repeating. It wasn't natural. It wasn't static. It was a message. Captain Rello frowned. "Can you trace it?" Varric's claws tapped fast across the controls. "It's coming from a Class M planet near the edge of the system. Coordinates 247 Gamma Theta." Pilot Kess hissed. That world was marked uninhabitable. Radioactive storms, barren surface. The Council declared it dead 2 centuries ago. Relo's eyes narrowed. And yet, there's a signal. They changed course immediately. As the ship approached, the crew stared in silence. The planet was not dead. Clouds moved in thick swirls, but below them they saw lights, structures, heat signatures, signs of life. Varric adjusted the scanners. Multiple human life forms detected. Rough estimate. Over 5,000. Kess blinked. Humans? Here? That's not possible. Earth never reported a colony in this system. Zera dropped into low orbit. Their cameras zoomed in. It wasn't just a few buildings. It was a full city hidden under camouflage netting and massive energy domes. Black towers rose from the rocky surface, all shaped in hard, angular designs. Defense turrets were mounted along the edges. Power lines hummed with energy. And then they saw the flag. It wasn't the United Earth symbol. It was a different design, older, harsher. A white skull over a red triangle, with bold human letters beneath. Project Exile. Captain Rello stood still. "What is this place?" Suddenly, the signal changed. A new message appeared on the console. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a welcome. It was a warning. "You have entered restricted space. Turn back. Nitrogen monoxide contact permitted. We do not recognize the Galactic Council." The message repeated in over 50 languages, including Earth Standard and Galactic Common. Varric's face went pale. They knew we were watching. Kess shook her head. "How did they detect us through our cloak?" Captain Rello stepped back from the screen. "Send a message to Council Command. Tell them what we found." Just as Varric reached for the comms panel, the Zera shook violently. "Impact detected." Kess shouted. They all braced as the ship rocked again. But no alarms were sounding. No hull breaches. No physical damage. "It's not a weapon," Varric said. "It's a pulse, some kind of signal jammer. We've been locked in. Our long-range comms are down." "Jam us? From the ground?" Rello asked. Varric nodded slowly. "Sir, this tech is far beyond what Earth has. This colony, whatever it is, it's using something even the Council hasn't seen." They stared down at the city again. Drones flew silently through the air. Walkers patrolled the walls. The humans moved in strange uniforms, black armor, face masks, all marked with the same symbol. No one waved. No one ran. No one seemed surprised. They were ready. Rello gave the order to retreat. But even as the ship pulled back into high orbit, one last message came through, this time directly to their bridge systems. "We see you. We were never lost. And we have not forgotten." Back on the Council homeworld, alarms were already blaring. Dozens of analysts stared at the images sent from the Zera. The flag, the colony, the warning. One word echoed across every chamber, every screen, every whisper. Exile. Something from the past buried, hidden, erased, had returned. And the galaxy was not ready. Asterisk, the Galactic Council's central hub was a massive ring station that orbited a red giant star. Inside, delegates from hundreds of species gathered in panic. The footage from the Zera played on loop. Black towers, armed humans, and the chilling message, "We were never lost." Council leader Merrick, a tall blue-skinned elder from the Fez. Zoran Race stared at the screen, eyes narrowed. "This isn't possible," he said coldly. "There is no record of any human colony in that region." Beside him, Advisor Lyra brought up old data logs. According to Earth's own history, that planet code-named RX-9 was marked uninhabitable during the early days of interstellar expansion. No official colonization request was ever submitted. Earth denied knowing anything. "But humans are there," Merrick replied, "and they're clearly not primitive." In the chamber's corner, a historian named Veles, one of the few who studied human war history, whispered a name, Project Exile. The others turned to him. Veles stepped forward. "A myth, or so we thought, about a time long ago when a faction of humans refused to join the Council's peace plan. They believed the galaxy was still dangerous, that Earth had become weak. So they left, secretly. They vanished." Merrick crossed his arms. "You're saying these humans are from that faction?" Veles nodded. "If the rumors were true, they took Forbidden's tech, war AI, and genetic soldiers with them. Earth erased all mention of them, to avoid embarrassment or fear. And now," Lyra whispered, "they've returned." Meanwhile, back aboard the Zera, Captain Rello watched the colony from orbit. The jamming signal remained active, but life signs on the planet were clear. There were children, schools, farms, even industrial complexes. It was a fully self-sufficient society. But one thing stood out. "They've been watching us," Eric muttered, "since before we even entered orbit." They didn't panic. They were calm. They were prepared. Kess zoomed in with a long-range scanner. "Captain, there's a symbol on one of the towers. A name. In Earth language. Rello Reed." It out loud. Fort Genesis. He felt a chill run down his back. They called this their beginning. Just then, a new ship rose from the colony's launch pad. It wasn't large, but its design was sleek, dark, and unfamiliar. It had no registry, no ID, no broadcast. Yet it flew directly toward the Zera. Kess gripped the controls. "Should we flee?" "No," Rello said, eyes narrowed. "Let's see what they want." The alien crew stood still as the unknown ship hovered beside them. A screen lit up. A human woman appeared, helmeted, armored, standing tall. Her voice was calm. Almost too calm. "You are not welcome. This colony is not yours to study. Your council abandoned us. Earth erased us, but we lived. And we remember." Rello tried to speak, but she cut him off. "We don't want war, but we're ready for it. Leave now. This is your last chance." Then the signal cut. Back at Council. "Command," Earth's ambassador finally spoke. We believe they died. The exile group was never meant to survive. They were angry, militant, dangerous. We tried to stop them, but they vanished into deep space. Their ship logs were corrupted. We thought they were gone forever." Leader Merrick scowled. "You buried the truth." The ambassador looked down. "To protect peace." Vilas, the historian, added, "You buried warriors in a galaxy full of danger. And now they've grown into something else, something you can't control." That night, across several alien homeworlds, news of the lost colonies spread like wildfire. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a threat. But no one doubted what they saw. A human society stronger than Earth, smarter than the Council, and no longer hiding. The question was no longer who they were. The question now was, What do they want? Far from the council chambers, deep inside the ancient archives buried beneath Earth's old capital, a forgotten name began to reappear. Commander Halric Kane. He was once a famous military leader, brilliant, fearless, and dangerous. But 200 years ago, after the Great Disarmament Treaty, he and a group of soldiers rejected peace. They believed Earth was lowering its guard. Halric called it a blind surrender. Many laughed at him, until he vanished with 3,000 elite soldiers, scientists, engineers, and stolen tech. His last words to Earth's leaders had been recorded, but never made public. If the galaxy ever comes for us, we will be ready. Even if Earth forgets us, we will never forget Earth. Now that voice echoed again as council officers played a recovered file. Council leader Merrick turned to Earth's ambassador. You knew about this. Why was it kept hidden? The ambassador looked pale, because what they took wasn't just knowledge. It was blood. Back aboard the Zara, Captain Rello watched the colony grow larger on the screen. New towers were rising. The colony wasn't just surviving. It was expanding. Varik, scanning the structure, whispered, Sir, this place was built for war. Beneath the colony, deep scans detected something: massive bunkers, hangars, and shield generators buried in layers of rock. Rello frowned. They've been building for generations. Quiet, hidden, with one goal: to outlive the galaxy. Kess added. Suddenly, a message appeared on their console again. Not a warning this time, an invitation. You may send one delegate. Alone. We will speak once. No weapons, no surveillance. No lies. Rello took the risk. Aboard a sleek drop pod, he descended into the colony's perimeter. The moment he landed, the pod systems powered down. Outside, a group of armored humans waited. Their armor was black with red lines, strange symbols written across the shoulders. Their faces were covered, but one stepped forward and removed her helmet. She was human, but her eyes glowed faintly. Her voice was calm. You're not from Earth, she said. No, Rello replied. But I want to understand. Who are you? She gave a short nod. We are the exiles, the last warriors of old Earth. She guided him through a narrow corridor made of dark metal. Rello saw children training with wooden swords, teenagers reading manuals filled with ship schematics, adults repairing weapons. Older than Council tech, but upgraded far beyond it. We are descendants of Cain, she explained. He taught us to remember where we came from and where Earth might one day fall. You think Earth will fall? Rello asked. The woman stopped walking. We don't think. We know. In a great underground hall, he saw a massive metal structure, an ancient Terran war core, one of only 3 ever built. It was capable of powering entire fleets or destroying a small moon. The council had believed they were all dismantled. How did you keep this secret? Rello asked. We didn't, she replied. You simply stopped looking. On one wall, Rello noticed painting scenes of Earth history. Wars, disasters, sacrifices, and a final image, a fleet of black ships flying under the exile flag. Rello stepped back. You're planning something. The woman turned to him, eyes fierce. No, we're waiting. Back in orbit, Kess and Varric tracked the colony's movements. New signals were rising from underground. Energy levels were spiking. Defense platforms were activating. Kess turned, wide-eyed. Sir, if this place launches, there's no force in the sector that can stop it. At the same time, the Council gathered in emergency session. Earth demanded calm. But other species were afraid. A warrior race hidden from history. With technology, discipline, and a grudge. Veles, the historian, stood and said clearly, This is not a lost colony. This is A storm we forgot to prepare for. And now it's waking up. The skies over the hidden colony darkened as storm clouds rolled in, but they were not natural. These were controlled weather systems, generated by machines, designed to block satellite views and prevent orbital scans. High above, the Zera hovered, in silent orbit. Inside, Kess and Varric watched as energy readings climbed beyond safe limits. Varric's voice trembled. They're charging something, but not a weapon. It looks like a global shield. Captain Rello, now back from the colony, stood beside them. He was pale, quiet, changed. They're not just protecting themselves, he said softly. They're preparing to vanish again. Elsewhere in the galaxy, panic spread. The council called for an emergency summit. Ambassadors argued, shouted, blamed one another. Earth's representative insisted that the exiles had no contact with modern Earth. They don't answer our hails, the ambassador said. We are not their masters. They are not our citizens anymore. But many council races didn't believe it. They speak Earth languages. They use Earth weapons. They carry Earth faces. You expect us to believe you had nothing to do with this? Velas, the historian, stood once more. We forced them into darkness. Now we fear what grew there. Back at the exile colony called Fort Genesis, another ship approached. It was not from the council. It came from a private empire, a wealthy trade conglomerate, seeking first contact for profit. The small envoy vessel descended through the clouds with flashing lights and peaceful music. A soft female voice played on loop. We come in peace. We bring knowledge, trade, and friendship. It was ignored. As the ship crossed into the outer perimeter, the exile colony responded, not with violence, but with silence. All comms were instantly jammed. The ship's engines sputtered, systems glitched, lights flickered. Then the sky opened. A swarm of black drones rose from the jungle, surrounding the vessel in perfect formation. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They just hovered watching. Inside the ship, the crew panicked. No weapons worked. No communication could be sent. They were completely alone. Seconds later, a sharp warning appeared across every screen. In red, contact denied. Turn back ORB erased. The drones stayed in place, but one fired a warning shot across the hull, a burn mark. Centimeters from the cockpit, the pilot didn't wait. The envoy ship turned and fled at full speed, leaving behind only smoke and silence. News of the failed contact attempt spread fast. Trade unions screamed for protection. Independent fleets activated war protocols. Earth pleaded for calm, but the exiles said nothing. They didn't threaten. They didn't explain. They simply raised their shields and watched. Back aboard the Zera, Captain Rello sat in silence. Kess looked at him. What did they tell you down there, Captain? What did they want? Rello finally spoke. They don't want anything. Varric frowned. Then why the warnings? Why the weapons? Rello's eyes were steady. Because they're waiting. They believe the galaxy is broken. They see us, our wars, our corruption, our greed. And they've chosen not to join it, not to fix it, but to survive it. Kess whispered. And if we force them? Rello looked. Out the window. Below, the colony glowed beneath the clouds. A silent fortress, a waiting storm. They'll fight. And we won't win. Far below, inside the heart of Fort Genesis, the woman commander watched satellite feeds from space dock. She turned to an elder man, face lined with scars and wisdom. They came again, she said. He nodded. They always do. But we're still here. She tapped the console. Status: colony shield to 100% weapon core, primed memory archives, sealed. Her voice was calm. When they push us, should we show them? The elder's answer was quiet, but final. No, not yet. Let them fear what they don't understand. That's stronger than any weapon. And just like that, Fort Genesis disappeared from radar. Asterisk, asterisk. Deep under Fort Genesis, below the command towers and soldier barracks, was a sealed chamber. Few exiles even knew it existed. Fewer still were allowed inside. The chamber was cold, dark, and humming with quiet power. Inside it stood the heart of the colony, a giant sphere made of black metal and glowing red veins. This was no ordinary reactor. It was a relic from Earth's forgotten wars, something so powerful, so dangerous, that even Earth had banned its creation. They called it the Nemesis Core. Back in Council space, new scans arrived from long-range probes. One small drone, launched by a neutral observer, had gotten lucky. It managed to capture just one image before being fried mid-air. A glowing energy pattern spinning deep underground. Something artificial. Something alive. When scientists saw the design, they froze. "This is not colony-grade tech," said one researcher. "It's a war core." Council leader Merrick stared. "But that's impossible. There were only 3 Nemesis cores ever made. All destroyed." Earth's ambassador stood in silence. Vilas, the historian, whispered, "Maybe Earth destroyed theirs. But the exiles... They didn't." Meanwhile, at Fort Genesis, the woman commander known only as Commander re-entered the chamber. Core greeted her with a deep pulse, like a heartbeat. Behind her stood an old exile engineer, one of the original builders. His hands shook as he tapped the control panel. "It's stable. We've kept it quiet for generations," he said. Ree nodded. "But if they come for us again..." The engineer swallowed hard. "Then this whole moon will light up like a second sun." Back in orbit, the Zera remained on watch. Captain Rello read through the data stream from the Council. His crew had grown silent. Even Kess, who never showed fear, looked tense. VA-RIK said quietly, "Captain, if that's a Nemesis core, then we are parked above a supernova waiting to happen." Rello nodded. "One blast from that thing could wipe out everything in this system, including us. But why build it?" Kess asked. "Why not just stay hidden?" Rello looked out the viewport. Below, the colony remained calm. No threats, no missiles, no noise. They built it not to attack, but to make sure they're never touched again. Inside the Council chambers, Earth's ambassador finally broke the silence. "We tried to stop them long ago. They refused to let go of war. They saw a galaxy full of predators, and they decided to become the scariest thing in the dark." Council leader Merrick growled. "And you let them leave with a Nemesis core?" "We thought they'd die," the ambassador admitted. "But they didn't," Vilas said. "They adapted. They evolved. And they've built something that can destroy everything we know." That night, across many star systems, fleets began to move. Some saw the exiles as a threat. Others saw them as a new power. Private empires, rival governments, and silent weapons dealers all wanted to know the same thing. How did they build the core? And could they build more? Back on the colony, Commander Ree stood above the sleeping city. She looked at the stars beyond the stormy sky. Lights blinked in orbit ships watching them, studying them, fearing them. She turned to a small group of children being trained nearby. "History will come for us," she said quietly. "Not because we are evil, but because we are prepared." "And see." Younger soldier walked up. "Ma'am, a coded signal just reached our outer sensors." "What does it say? Stand down or face consequences?" Ree didn't blink. She turned away and simply said, "Power the core." Beneath the colony, deep inside the Earth, red lights began to glow brighter. The core responded not with noise, but with a pulse that spread through the ground, up the towers, and into the sky. For a brief second, Every council sensor in orbit blacked out when they came back online. Fort Genesis was gone. Not destroyed. Hidden. Cloaked. Completely invisible. The exiles had activated a defensive system no one believed was real. The message was clear. You cannot fight what you cannot find. Asterisk darkness. Every satellite, drone, and spy probe above the exile world went dead in an instant. One by one, the council's eyes went blind. Ships scrambled. Commands were shouted. But Fort Genesis had vanished. Cloaked, gone. Panic gripped the council. In the control chambers of multiple alien fleets, officers screamed into silent comms. They couldn't locate the colony. They couldn't scan the surface. It was as if the exiles had erased themselves from existence. But then, the sky spoke. Across every channel, military, civilian, encrypted, even private comlinks, a single message appeared. The signal couldn't be blocked. It burned through jamming tech, AI firewalls, and even non-digital frequencies. To the stars that forgot us, this is your reminder. The voice was female. Calm, strong, not angry, not violent, just certain. You erased our names. You buried our history. You thought peace was safety. You were wrong. Across the galaxy, billions watched. On space stations, in domes on Mars, on frozen outposts and rich trade hubs, the same face appeared, Commander. Standing beneath the exile flag, her people behind her. We are not your enemies. We do not seek conquest. But we are not your children. We do not need your approval. Then the camera panned to the sky behind her. Rows of warships, black, silent, massive, hovered above Fort Genesis. Hidden until now. Not Earth ships, not Council ships. Exile ships. Built from ancient Terran blueprints. Reforged with time and fury. We will not be ruled. We will not kneel. We were made to endure, and now we rise. Back in Council Command, silence ruled. One alien admiral stood up, trembling. They have a fleet. No, whispered Velas, the historian. They have a statement. Meanwhile, the fleet above Fort Genesis moved into perfect formation, then vanished into faster than light speed. Destination unknown. The Council scrambled to respond. Orders were given. Fleets moved. But the damage was done. Fear had spread like wildfire. In a quiet room aboard the Zera, Captain Rello sat alone. He replayed the message again and again. Varric entered and said softly, "Sir, what do we do now?" Rello didn't answer at first. Then slowly he stood and said, "We let the galaxy choose. It can fear them or learn from them." Kess added, "And if someone attacks?" Rello looked up at the stars. "Then they'll learn what happens when you cornered the children of Earth." On Earth, the governments had no choice but to admit the truth. Yes, Project Exile was real. Yes, they had sent warriors away. Yes, they had hoped they would never return. But now they had, not to destroy, but to warn. The message from the exiles ended with one final line broadcast in every language, known across the stars. We are the legacy you threw away, but we never stopped watching. We are human, and we remember everything. Some worlds sent gifts. Others sent spies. Many sent apologies, but no answer came. Fort Genesis never spoke again. The exile fleet disappeared from sensors. Their world remained invisible, but their message, their presence. Would never be forgotten, because the galaxy now understood one thing. Humanity didn't just survive. It evolved in silence. And when it returned, the stars trembled. Asterisk.